Hi there, just to say this is a short snippet from this week's main episode, which was published on Wednesday as always. If you want the full episode, you can find it just below this one. Science does, to some degree, point us to the true nature of reality simply because you cannot separate the two. You know, I've been criticising science a lot and saying, well, blah, 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 it's all conceptual and it's full of models and models are necessarily incomplete. Concepts are necessarily kind of false. But at the end of the day, you actually can't separate reality and science because science is part of reality. Now, and ultimately, because reality is always evolving, science will evolve with it. And the more it does, the more it will truthfully reflect what reality actually is. You know, my claim is that reality is not ultimately physical and it's not ultimately a material system. And our science doesn't really explain the nature of reality. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't, it doesn't mean it's not a worthy attempt or a good attempt. And it doesn't mean it will never do that. It just means that the way it is now and the way it's used as a conceptual paradigm can never actually take you to true understanding of reality. But because of human curiosity, because of human evolution, we're going to keep pushing for complete understanding of reality, and ultimately that will lead us to a complete understanding, and science will have to evolve. When I say a complete understanding of reality, I do not mean that science will be able to capture that necessarily in equations or as like some sort of field theory or whatever. I'm talking things that we maybe can't imagine right now. I'm talking decades, hundreds of years in the future. What I'm saying is that ultimately humans are part of reality, science is part of reality, and both of those are always evolving and becoming more real and more truthful. So eventually you would think that they're going to get to the ground bottom truth of reality. Okay? And I'm open to that. Even if I don't think it's going to be a bunch of equations. I do recognize that equations they are descriptions, and ultimately you cannot say that they are not describing reality because, well, they are part of reality, but it doesn't mean that we can't do better, and doesn't mean it's an ultimate explanation of anything. Hi there, just to say this is a short snippet from this week's main episode, which was published on Wednesday as always. If you want the full episode, you can find it just below this one.